Okay, we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Let's wait for a few seconds for everyone to join, and then we're gonna start talking about multi-tenancy in the age of AI. Hi, Dmytro. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How about you, Kata?
I'm also
Oh,
doing.
oh, by the way, I don't see your note taker.
Ah, don't even remind me. Like those AI note takers are gonna be the death of me. I have to figure out some new ways to, I don't know, make notes during the meetings in Google Meets. By the way, do you have any suggestions? Maybe because I'm
Yeah, you
using.
can use pen and paper.
I didn't want to be old-fashioned since we're talking about AI today, but thank you.
No, to be honest, I'm just writing it on my keyboard. This way I remember things and I have notes like categorized. Uh,
Okay.
This is a simple application. Um,
I was just trying to make my work easy, but thank you. I'm gonna try.
yeah.
Okay. I think we can already start. Once again, hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here with us. Today, we will be discussing multi-tenancy in the age of AI. And your host right here is me, Keto. I'm an innovation strategist here in Ralops. I'm taking care of all the innovations, looking for them, making sure that we are on top of every trend. And our speaker here is Dmytro Frolov, who is a team lead, engineering team lead with us. So, Dmytro, I will give you the stage right now to, first of all, introduce yourself and let us know who is going to be giving us the best advice regarding multi-tenancy today.
Hey, I'm going to do that. I'm Dmytro, and I have more than 10 years of hands-on development experience, coupled with a solid 5 years in FinTech field. My main expertise is loan and mortgage sector. Uh, could you continue?
Yes. Okay. Since we already introduced ourselves, let's move on to what we will be covering today. This topic was actually highly requested from our blog and case studies, and finally we are talking about it. Today we will be covering, first of all, obviously discussing what is multi-tenancy, key benefits of it, architecture patterns. We will also be talking about our real-world case study where we scaled from we scaled the project from 1 to 15 tenants, and the user growth was from 800 to 2.2 million, which is quite a huge number, and I cannot wait for us to discuss how you managed to do it, Dmytro. The next, we will also be, of course, covering trade-offs and decisions and AI in multi-tenant workflows. And in the end, obviously, we will have time for your questions, where Dmytro here will be answering everything that you want to know about multi-tenancy and beyond. Okay, the floor is yours, Dmytro. Feel free to let us know what multi-tenancy actually is.
That is a great question. Imagine you live in a big apartment building. Everyone has their own unit, their own keys, and their own furniture. But all you share the same water pipes, electricity, and elevators. That multi-tenancy in a nutshell. In technical terms, it's one code base with multiple virtual instances. Each tenant has their own isolated environment, including branding, while sharing backend infrastructure like the database and servers.
Okay, so just to make sure that I'm following you 100%. So multi-tenancy is like a building where your neighbors can't really peek into your kitchen, but you are all using the same plumbing.
Exactly. Let me show the differences between two concepts. So on the left, we have a single tenant, and on the right, we have a multi-tenant concept. So the single tenant is the common one. Most of the products we use today is a single tenant application. For example, Spotify. Spotify is business to consumer oriented, but if they would be business to business oriented, it would make sense to use multi-tenancy. So the best example of multi-tenancy that I came up with is mortgage loans field, where we have a lot of consumers who get their loans from different banks. The process of getting the loan is quite the same across the all banks. You go to the bank, fill the application, talk to your agent reviews it, maybe does some legal work with it, and bam, you get a loan. So why don't we automate this process and sell it to multiple banks or other financial institutions so they can use the same process? And we maintain it, add new feature as request from our clients or by us. And all we can do additionally to change their branding. For example, one bank has their own logo, but another bank has their other logo. We cannot share the same logo across two brands, right?
Yeah.
Multi-tenancy becomes handy here, by the way. We use the same database, the same backend, and the front-end server. The business is isolated, and it can't see each other while we change the code and apply the changes.
Okay, so as I understand, you're saving a lot of time, and I'm pretty sure a lot of money as well, because you are not like rebuilding. You just come up with one system that works for one bank, as in your example, and then we can use the same system for the other ones.
Exactly.
And what are the other benefits?
We have four of them on this slide. Let me just start from the left one. Cost saving is a big one. As you can see, less infrastructure to manage, less money to pay. The cost of maintaining and sharing schemas is the same as having single tenant application. Plus, you get isolation for that. Increasing isolation will increase the cost. Second one, faster rollouts. You build once, and every tenant benefits. We must focus on features that someday we will apply it on the other tenants. For example, do you remember that we talked about SMS messages
Yes.
for one tenant? Can we sell this feature for another tenant?
Why not?
How can we do that? That's why we have configs that are different across tenants. And for example, for the new tenant, we can apply the new Twilio account or configuration, and they're ready to go.
Okay.
The third item is consistent user experience. So everyone right now with their mobile phones on their desktop application, or if they are agents, they're working on their desktop computers, right? So we have to support all that stuff. So we have to make sure that our user experience is consistent. It should be consistent though, but some tenants may require text changes or add new pages, or maybe other labels, buttons, and such things. When we talk about multi-tenancy, we usually think about the database and the backend, but we should keep in mind that front-end or mobile multi-tenancy requires strategy as well. And we almost finished on this slide. Let me just tell you about white label flexibility. So this is a neat one. So when we're talking about white label flexibility, we need to customize the look, change the text, theme, logos. We use content blocks. Those things are reusable contents like text, images, links, and formatting. We're like building Legos with it, but different application may have different legal pages. That's a job for content blocks. We store that text in the database per tenant. So everyone can change on our side, by the way, the legal text and apply it immediately. We don't need to deploy any code or anything like that. It will be automatically gathered from the database.
Okay, so let's say bank A requests a new feature. Once it's stable, you can just go ahead and turn it on for bank B too?
Exactly.
Oh,
That's the way. You're not building the same thing multiple times. We call it feature flags. No need to invent the bike. Just one click on the feature, enable it on production, and for another tenant, it will be applied. Like the SMS feature. We already set up the credential for one tenant, and we can easily turn it on and off again. It should not require the servers to restart. It's my motto. Why do we need to bother about this stuff if it's already written in the code? Which gives us the next slide, architecture patterns. Now let's talk about how multi-tenancy can actually be created. Everything depends on your business scale, compliance needs, and how isolated each tenant should be. We have 4 different architecture patterns. The first one, shared DB, shared schema. This is cost-effective one, but much separation. Someone may accidentally slip into your apartment. I would not say this is a multi-tenancy at all. The second one is I like this one. It's a shared database, separate schema. This is efficient, but with better data isolation. We use it on one of our projects. That's why I like it. Separate database. This is most isolated thing, but also the most expensive and complex to manage. Only bigger companies like huge FinTech institution use different separate databases. It's really expensive. And the last one, we have hybrid approaches. That's just a mix of that and that. We usually start from the first one or second one, and we evolve.
Okay, so as I understand, even though the multi-tenant architecture might be multi-tenant, we still can have separate databases. But from what I got from you, this is usually for like huge and big enterprises, right? Because it requires a lot of money.
Yes, exactly. If you're a big company, handling sensitive financial data, or the healthcare handling a lot of PII data, it's often safer to go with the separate database. But for most small to mid-scale SaaS products, shared database with schema separation works great. It helps save on infrastructure and gives you the space to evolve. At the end, if you're going to big company one day, it's not a big deal to just separate your database with additional resources.
Okay, that makes sense.
This I like this.
Yeah, it's way easier to understand when you have like the visual representation.
Yeah. So those are pictures of different approaches. In our project, we're using shared database with separate schema. This the middle one. It's a great middle ground. All tenants share the same database engine, but their data is logically separated.
Okay.
This helps us to manage the costs. So again, while still keeping things clean and isolated, it's especially useful for fast-growing businesses and don't contribute anything later. So, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like when a new tenant joins, it's like spinning up their own little space inside the same building.
Yeah. And we use scripts to automate that setup. So onboarding is fast and every tenant gets their own configuration. Let me tell when to use multi-tenancy.
Yeah, that is a good question. How do we know that we have to, like, multi-tenancy is going to be good for us?
I'm going to tell you about 2 scenarios, the ideal scenario and when we need to reconsider that. For ideal scenarios, we have a couple of things. When we're expecting high tenant count, when we're expecting dozens of new clients, keep in mind those clients have under them a lot of users. We call them consumers. When we have to do white label requirement, obviously we cannot put a label of Mercedes on BMW. So we need branding here. Rapid feature rollout, again, fast deployment simultaneously for all tenants. One feature for them all immediately. And self-serve onboarding. We need to consider that as option as well because we need to spend additional time for doing that self-serve. When we expect to onboard tenant rapidly, we need some tools that will help with that. Consider multi-tenancy when you have strict isolation rules like healthcare or FinTech. And about the reconsideration, we've been there in FinTech industry, in the healthcare, and other financial things. We also have some legacy code when the project is really long, and sometimes it's really hard to refactor everything and run separate instances. So just keep in mind that not everything is suitable. You just need to think about the cost effective in that area. Maybe you will find another ways. case study overview. On this slide, I will show you the real case. We started with a single tenant MVP, just one client, but the product gained attraction, and soon more companies wanted it. Everyone liked that product. So we gradually moved to multi-tenancy. Today, we manage 10 live enterprise tenants and 5 demo environments, all from a single code base. No rewrites needed. And we talked about feature flags, right? Do you remember them?
Yes, of course. I've been listening to you very carefully.
They are really handy. For those 5 demo tenants, we have different feature flag sets. So we can enable them, and sale department goes to the potential client and introduces this feature as an SMS feature or AWS QuickSight for reportings. This client can even test this feature live on their own application. Why not? We had a case when our salesman went to the potential client. They showed on the demo environment this feature, and he gave that demo environment for potential clients, and the potential client asked about this feature. We immediately turned this feature on. They played around for a couple of hours, and they bought the tenant possibility and that feature. So
That's
let me.
No, I just said that's impressive.
Our sales team is really great.
Yeah, they are.
On this slide, we have some scaling metrics. I will not tell you those metrics again. We're just increase the user count almost 3 times. It's really impressive from the user perspective, but that's not the whole point of our business. I think in our case, we have to consider and be proud of this. So more tenant, the better for business. So we scaled from a single one to 10 and 5 demo environments that are really easy to change. Also, we released. Also, we changed how we can roll out. Our releases are from 1 to 4. So rollout is really fast.
Okay. And I guess scaling tenants is not just about the infra, right? It's also about how fast you can onboard them.
Yeah. Which brings us to the next slide. Onboarding new tenants.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How do we onboard new tenants?
We have to automate onboarding. As I mentioned, you should not restart the server because the code is already there, right?
Yeah.
Once we have multi-tenancy ready, the next step, how we onboard new clients. So for that, we use Terraform. The Terraform is automate infrastructure provisioning. So with that code, everything on, for example, on AWS will be set up and placed, or on the Google Cloud. With the configuration as the code, feature flags, custom templates, custom tenant configurations. We also do a data seeding and schema migration automatically. So each tenant starts with their own default rights and default presets, default users, default data that they can operate with, default template.
Okay.
And the last one.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm just almost there, and I'm going to just show you the whole thing of this, the fuss all about the self-serve portal. This allows you to use API hooks.
Okay. So what I wanted to say basically is that for me, it sounds like you've got a whole serve engine behind the scenes. And as I understand, your dev teams doesn't need to manually configure new tenants, right? Everything is automated.
Yeah, developers should only worry about the code. We built a self-service internal portal that let us create, update, even preview tenants. Usually, our sales department is responsible for filling the tenant data and communication with clients. Sometimes we get requests from them for new feature for the portal, like legal document preview. They wanted to see the document while they edit it. I believe maybe because they process with the legal department or marketing team. So on this screenshot, we've been talking about self-serve portal. It has some mock data here. On the real environment, we have a lot of fields here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, keep in mind that it's not client-facing. We use it only internally. At way through to manage tenant configurations, features, themes, and more, and content blocks. Sometimes we need to quickly change some text. So the goal for this sub-project was to reduce human error and speed up delivery. It also helps us do user acceptance testing of new features, for example, in a dev environment, before going live. But when we test internally, we usually use in the staging environment where we can spin up as many tenants as possible, 30 of them, 50 of them, whatever configuration when we want. So we can cover all the cases. Which bring us to the next slide, trade-offs and decisions.
Yeah, it all sounds like too perfect on the screen right now. So what are the trade-offs?
Exactly.
What should you think about before starting on this?
Multitenancy is not a free lunch. You always have to balance between performance, security, and maintenance complexity. Some tenants will grow faster and consume more resources. So we need to tune CPU and memory per tenant. We actually had this case, so we had to resolve it really fast. Our tenant, they onboarded, and we had to tune CPU and memory because it consumed a lot of resources for our tenants. Gladly, everything went okay, and we resolved this potential issue really quick. We have some metrics on our side to monitor this stuff as well. Security and complexity. As we mentioned before, separate schema is great for security. It's a bit harder for junior developers, but we have experience with that. Upgrade Windows. We have to decide when to do deploy, all at once or service by service. We used to roll out all at once, but that changes a bit later when we face some bottlenecks. Now we deploy per service. For example, we have 3 microservices. Front end, back end, and payments logic. They really loosely coupled. So we can release faster and clients see the feature as soon as they are ready. And the last one is cost versus SLA. So cost versus uptime guarantees. We used to pay full price for reserved instances running 24/7, even when no one was using them. Now we switch to shared rules and dynamic scaling. Most of our business clients operate from 9 to 5, so why keep a heavy machine running all night?
Well, if you have, vampires and werewolves as consumers, then you definitely need to run the machine the whole night. But yeah, we don't need that today.
Actually, we support that too.
I'm pretty sure we would.
Now we scale down during off-work hours. It saves money and system adjusts automatically, but we still can access and our potential clients, consumers at night with no real difficulties.
Okay. Dmytro, sorry, before we move to the next topic, I had one more question that I'm pretty sure a lot of our viewers are going to have. When we are talking about the data, like very sensitive data, since we're working with healthcare and fintech. As I understand, separate schemas is the one that guarantees the confidentiality of and not mixing up those data, right?
Yes, exactly. The single tenant will not have this opportunity or feature. It's really hard to maintain. Someone can pick it up, like another tenant can see the data from another tenant, and we don't want that. That's why we're using the separate schema.
Okay. Okay, it makes sense. Thank you. Now we can confidently move on to AI, since this is the thing that a lot of people were asking on our LinkedIn as a response to our blog posts. How do we use AI in workflows?
Yeah, actually, AI, it's a lot of teams are curious about this topic. We use AI for a couple of things, and we use it for code generation. For tenant-specific configuration, as I mentioned, we have some different configuration for each tenant. It could be some, for example, thriller configuration and other stuff, legal stuff. Unit test writing, we're using it with IDE plugins, so our reliability is a bit scaled up. And for mapping and validation large data sets during onboarding of the new tenant. In one project, we helped a large financial institution ingest a massive data files from a physical branch. So, as you remember, like a person who wants to get a loan, they go to the bank, they get a loan. Those agents, they fill up everything on the paper or on the computer, and they process it in their own database. We don't have access to that database yet, unless we sign the contract with this potential tenant, for example. And when they sign that contract with us, we can get that a giant pile of data.
Yeah.
And we need to validate the data and map it.
Okay, so you used AI to help you clean and validate that data. So, like using AI, we are using AI to assist in ETL.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Extract, transform, load. And for the devs, we use tools like code agents in the IDEA to speed up unit test development. For keeping multi-tenant system reliable, you cannot scale without being reliable.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
On this screenshot, one of our team members had created a statistic of all data that came from a physical bank branch that I mentioned before. It shows that some fields were missing and require additional checks. You can see the second column and the third one, like not a number count and not a number percentage. So this is a real data from the real statistic from the real institution. We need to check that, and later we can feed it to AI, and the AI will map it to the database, to our database. So we have this giant CSV, and the easiest example would be, let's say it's a Lloyd Banks. They hold their consumer information like first name field, like literally first name, but in our system it's like pre-first. If we're going to map those things manually, it would require a ton of work. You're going to ask, hey, but it's a couple of fields. Isn't that hard? No, it's hard. We may face like dozens of unknown fields, and to understand what that field means is really complicated sometimes. Your field name and field type cannot be that obvious. It can be some gibberish there, but by looking at values for giant type pile of values, you can understand actually what kind of field that is. And they feed all those fields to AI and they map it.
Okay, so we have AI like our junior developers who are very good at doing what you tell them to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. It makes a lot of sense.
I believe that's it.
Yes. Thank you, Dmytro.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Now it's time for our Q&A. If any of our viewers have any questions, just feel free to type them up all in our chat. I will read them to Dmytro and we will answer the questions. And while we're waiting for the questions and answers, Dmytro, thank you so much. It was very what I value the most when I'm receiving new information is to make sure that I understand it. So it was very explained in the simplest and the most understandable way for me, and I'm pretty sure for our viewers as well. So thank you so much for taking your time and coming up with this apartment kind of explanation things. It was very good.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure.
I'm happy to hear that. Let's wait for 1 or 2 more minutes. And if right now I'm talking to our viewers right now. If at the moment you do not have any questions or nothing comes to your mind, always feel free to connect with us, reach out to us. Here we have the QR code that you can simply scan and jump in the chat with us. And we will be more than happy to answer all of your questions and inquiries. And yeah. I think I can let you go to your big boy developer job back.
Yeah.
Because I know your time is super valuable, and other than just explaining everything, I'm once again thanking you for finding the time to discuss this topic with me and with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for hosting this. Have a
My
great day. Bye-bye.
my pleasure. Just before you go, we just received one
Oh,
question.
yeah. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Can you give examples of products or industries that should not adapt multi-tenancy? That should not adapt. That's a very good question.
That's a good question, but I partly answered it. Like Spotify, for example, if Spotify is going to do a multi-tenant stuff, they can still do that, but they have competitors like Apple Music, like YouTube, and when they're going to send it, why we like Spotify or any other streaming platform? Because they have their own features.
Okay.
And if they're going to sell that feature and rebrand it as their own name, nobody is going to use that. Everyone knows about the Spotify. I would say you should not do multi-tenancy if your business is really popular.
Okay. It makes sense. So then the others cannot copy you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you want to automate some process and make some kind of CRMs or something like that, why not? Only for middle-sized businesses, I would say.
Okay. And I remember you mentioned that if you're business to consumer, not business to business, it might not be the best option for you.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, Dmytro, I can truly let you go back to your projects. Once again, thanks to you, thanks to everyone who participated, who listened to us, who requested for us to do the webinar, and we will see you all in our next webinar, which is going to be announced very soon on our LinkedIn pages and our newsletters. So feel free to drop us a topic if there's something that you want to talk about or learn more about. We're more than happy to share our knowledge and expertise.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.